Education opens doors for the gospel, bringing hope to dark places and sparking lasting change around the world. At TeachBeyond, we're reaching the nations through education.
This is Transformed and Transformational, a podcast from TeachBeyond. I'm Kian.
And I'm Heather. We're exploring how the gospel transforms us and overflows to impact classrooms, communities, and the world.
Let's jump into today's conversation. Today, we are going to be hearing a bit about camp. So, Heather, I'm curious if you went to camp as a kid.
Yes, I definitely had camp as part of my growing up experience. My church's kids ministry, we went to this camp that was about an hour away, and it was for a week every summer. So it was a good experience sleeping away for the first time, being somewhere different, but still with people that I knew. And I also remember this was like so firmly in my mind that when you registered for the camp, you had to rank your top choices for the electives. So it was like horseback riding or canoeing or ceramics. And I always loved to read the options and kind of assess, you only had, I don't know if it was 3 or 5 top choices, and you had to use those numbers sparingly. And then when I was a little older, I went to camp further away for 2 weeks, and I didn't know many people at all. I just knew one friend, and that definitely got me out of my comfort zone because, Kian, there was an overnight hike, which meant you were camping in a real tent and wearing real hiking gear. And you know me well enough to know that is out of my comfort zone.
I can definitely see outdoor camping being a little bit out of your comfort zone, not something you're totally comfortable with. Also, with your list of electives, I'm really curious what you chose between horseback riding, ceramics, all those different things.
Well, keeping in mind there were many other choices, but of those 3, I definitely loved doing ceramics every year. It was like kind of the thing. I, would bring home a ceramic piece from there each year. So that was fun. Yeah. And, I also worked at a camp for a summer in college, and then a different summer went back to that camp I had gone to as a kid and shared the Bible lessons with the kids that summer. And that was such a neat full circle experience. I think of the times when I was a camper and also on staff at a camp, and both of those were really helpful in stretching me and, in the activities we were doing and the responsibilities, and also stretching me in my faith.
Yeah, that's interesting. Camp is such an intense experience.
It really is.
Yeah, I remember in elementary school, I went to a camp a few times with just a friend and then a group of people I didn't know.
Yeah.
It is interesting to just see how quickly you can feel those close bonds grow, spiritual development happening there.
Yeah.
Just really interesting. Also, though, in elementary school, I think the biggest part of my camp experience was the blob, which, for those of you who don't know, it's the big water bubble in the lake, and you lay on it, and somebody jumps on it and shoots you off of it. And it's, for an elementary kid, it's great.
For sure. We had a blob at the camp I went to as well. I think that must be just a staple. And I definitely resonate with what you said about connecting with just strangers so quickly. I definitely cried at the end of camp more than once because I didn't want to attend.
Yes, I can understand that. Yeah. And then in high school, I did start going to my own youth group camp, and that was just a great week. I grew up in the Midwest, so we had snow camp, which is in the middle of winter, and that was awesome and filled with things like broom ball and big campfires and things like that.
So fun. You got to have a bonfire at camp. That's really when, it's camp.
Exactly. Most people in ministry feel like they have to choose. Do they serve the local church or do they go into global missions? Today's guest has spent his career answering yes.
Duarte Casmarrinha is TeachBeyond's national director in Portugal, but also serves as the pastor of a local Brethren church and has a long history with camps.
Let's go over to hear that conversation now.
Welcome to the podcast, Duarte.
I feel very welcome with you.
We are so glad to have you, Duarte, and we're excited for this conversation. And as we get started, it'd be great to just hear kind of about you and about your role. So you're the national director of TeachBeyond Portugal. So how do you view that responsibility, and what is it that you do within kind of TeachBeyond as a whole?
Well, as national director for Portugal, my role is basically to lead a team that is made by volunteers only, members of TeachBeyond Portugal. And basically, my role is to address the vision of the organization to be implemented in Portugal, with specifics in terms of what we do. We basically operate with informal education activities and events. At the moment, we don't have any kind of service concerning formal education. We will have in the future,
Mhm.
God
Mm.
willing, and we're very excited about that. But for the moment, we have only informal education services, meaning uh, English camps, marriage seminars, youth seminars, and conferences for
Mm.
Christian teachers. Basically,
Mm.
I supervise and lead those several teams that are in charge of each one of those activities, services,
Mm.
and
Mm.
make sure that everything is all right, and we will have as much success as Lord allows us to.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
You mentioned English camps, and I know those have been going on for a long time in Portugal. Can you talk to us about what those might look like, who those serve?
Yeah, we started the English camps initially. It was not they were not called English camps. I believe they started in 1998, and it was a kind of joint venture, so to speak, between what we called back there Janz Team and with a school, language school called Lancaster School or Lancaster College, more likely. And it was basically a project from one of the teachers, an American teacher um, that was working with Lancaster College. And John's team by that time embraced, so to speak, that project, supporting it. But later on, since 2002, we started our own English camps, and it's a bit different from the rest of the English camps we have all around the world. You probably know that we don't have classes. Um, what we have is a bunch of occasions during the day, each day of the camp, when we have the campers uh, have almost mandatorily a conversation in English with basically with the staff that comes from the United States to help us. And so, whether is within a game that involves the Word of God, Bible verses, whether is right after the Bible class we have in the morning, um, whether is in any other game, memory bank or the names we have for several activities, they have to speak in English. They have to establish a conversation. And sometimes they make mistakes, and it's the responsibility of the team to correct them. And, you know, by the end of the camp, even parents tells us that they're very impressed with the level of English and improvement their kids have when they get home. So basically, we don't have classes because we realized that kids are on vacation, and in Portugal, that's very important. I don't know if you have the same feeling in the States or in any other country, but in Portugal, if the kids, the first day of vacation is vacation.
Yeah.
You just want to throw the classroom to the back, and
Yes.
they don't want to know anything about classroom until September. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
we try to avoid that, but instead we have a lot of conversation, a lot of written material, and that's the way they learn the
In
language.
practice.
And at the
Yeah.
same time, in a practical way, at the same time, because most of them are not Christians, they have the first contact with the Word of God.
Mhm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
And we do all the activities that regular camps do, sports, music, worship. um, we go to the beach, because the places where we have the English camps normally are close to the sea, and basically that's it.
Yeah. What a great ministry. And, we're going to hear more about all that God is doing in Teach Beyond Portugal. But you've been working with Teach Beyond for quite a while, given the English camps and then seeing the development over time. So we'd love to go back before your days with Teach Beyond, before your days with Janz Team, and what led you to be part of this work. So thinking back, what experiences did you have in your younger years that were then pivotal to leading you to be involved in a global organization like Teach Beyond and maybe specifically doing the national director job?
Well, when I was a teenager, I used to go to summer camps and basically organized by an organization called Word of Life Ministries. Actually, in Portugal, they have the biggest camp facility compared to other organizations in other camps. But we always had a very uh, mission focus on those camps, including having a lot of teams from the United States and England and even from Spain. And that international, so to speak, environment really was important for me to realize that if the Lord was calling me to missions, it was important for me to realize what was going on, not only locally in my country but in other countries. So it was very important for me to get in touch of missionaries, pastors, and also teenagers like me that came from another country, um, with whom I was able to talk and to share what was going on here and knowing what was going on in that country. Um, the leaders of Word of Life ministries were all from the United States, and I must say that I received a strong influence in terms of thinking about missions, thinking about working within an organization more than within a church, um, which would be focused on missions, not only national but also international um, missions. And also, the local church I was raised with had a big influence of missionaries, mainly British, because the Brethren churches in Portugal were basically founded by British missionaries in early 20th century. And that heritage is still very strong for us. And the vision they passed, and most of them were in Portugal just passing, because most of them were going to Brazil or to Africa. They stayed, I don't know, some of them 5 years, another families probably 10 years. But those years they had a huge influence in terms of vision, in terms of mission, and of course, being foreigners was what they left written for us as a heritage, as I was saying, was very strong and kind of inspired me to to embrace that kind of vision and mission too.
As you are hearing about missions and interested in getting involved, how did you first hear about Teach Beyond, and what part of the mission of Teach Beyond connected you and called you to get involved with it?
I heard the first time I heard about Janz Team Ministries, which was the name. It was around 1996 or 97 when the first leader of Jan's team was a lady called Liane Cephas, a Brazilian lady that had a German background, and she was traveling all the time to Kandern, where by that time we had the headquarters of Jan's team. And I heard her in a conference, and I was very, very excited because by that time, basically what John's team did was a radio program for youth, and also youth rallies, so to speak. And that was about it. Uh, and then she was replaced by Fabio Mota. And Fabio Mota, a Brazilian, was the leader of Janz Team for 4 or 5 years, and he was a very good, and he is a very good friend of mine. And by that time, I was working as an administrator of a venue, a camp, evangelical, where we had the activities, most all the activities, I must say, of Janz Team. So by that time, I was connecting with all the environment and all what Janz Team was doing, and it was came naturally the invitation from Fabio to for me to join the organization, and I started in 2002 um, as a member of Janz Team Association. That's the name in Portugal. And in 2004, Fabio and his family they moved to Vancouver because he wanted to have his master's in Regent College, and so he was looking for someone to replace him. And it was in the beginning it was a hard job for him because the first two people, one refused, and another one was found not suitable for the place. And finally, he came to me. We had a meeting, and he said, "Would you consider being the national director for John's team?" And I was already involved with the camp where I was working. It was a very, very busy job. But again, I saw um, in Jan's team vision, mission, and also activities and events. I saw there a possibility of extend, so to speak, my gifts, my talents, and I would reach several goals um, with uh, with John's team, working with John's team, and of course, working as a leader, it would be easier. And that's basically how I became a Teach Beyonder. Um, and again, I after that, I was there in the process of changing um, from John's team to Teach Beyond, and I am still one of the uh, small group of people that passed through that hard sometimes transformation and changing. But I'm glad that that change happened, and it's amazing what the Lord has done with the organization. Of course, not only I'm not talking about the change of name, but the focus, the mission, and uh, all that um, gave us the possibility to reach so many people and being being present in so many countries in the whole world. I mean, it's amazing what the Lord has done.
Let's take a quick break for our weekly spotlight.
Duarte has been sharing about his experience with camps and hosting Teach Beyond English camps in Portugal. So this week, our spotlight is camps. Teach Beyond has 1 to 2 week camps all over the world, sharing the gospel through conversational English, fun activities, and meaningful teaching. You can learn more about camps by visiting teachbeyond.org/go/camps or click on the link in the show notes.
Now back to our conversation with Duarte.
It seems that similar to you seeing the opportunity by joining Jan's team, now Teach Beyond, that gave you to stretch and become like have new opportunities and grow. similar to how the when the organization shifted its focus and changed its name, and that whole time period of change allowed for a different kind of growth. And so saying yes to new opportunities can lead to a new chapter that we hadn't imagined, or didn't know exactly what it could look like. And so it's so valuable to have people in our organization still who have walked through that transition, and
Mm,
who are anchoring us to who we have been, and how that leads into the future. There's a piece here from when you were an attendee at a camp to when you were working at a camp that I'd love to hear a little bit more about in your story. Um, was it from your own experience of going to camps that you ended up working in camps? Was there a period there that you were doing other things?
well, definitely, because the first time I went to a camp as a camper, I was 12 years old, and I was, so to speak, in love for that kind of ministry from the first day. Of course, I was a camper for 6 years, and when I was 18, I became a staff member of Word of Life camps, and I was serving at the tables. That was my job. We're talking about a camp that had probably 300 campers. It was crazy. And my job was to serve at the tables and the dishwashing and so on. That
Yes.
was my job. But
Yes.
by the second year, I was appointed to be the assistant of the program director. And the third year, I was the program director of the camps. And so that transition was fast, so to speak, but it resulted because I had this passion to be involved with camps. Um, and I don't remember since 2012, when I was 12 years old, more likely, I don't remember a single summer when I couldn't be in a summer camp or leading or preaching or whatever. Somehow, and not only the English camps for Teach Beyond, but with other organizations. I don't remember a single summer since I was 12 years old uh, when I wasn't involved in a camp. And that gave me also the opportunity to realize that that is the best strategy we have when you form a staff, a team to work with the English camps. It's interesting because all the Portuguese staff we use, we're talking about 20 people. They all were previously English campers. So that gives you the idea that that is the best strategy. The strategy that someone applied in my life. Uh, I was a result of that strategy, so to speak, and that's how we do it. And that there's a, if you allow me, there's a good history of transformation. One of the girls that help us now with the workshops for quite some time now, her name is Tita, Tita Silva. Tita is a nickname for Christina. And she's a professional on communications too. She was in college, and her course was video and communications. And she was a camper with the English camps since she was 13 years old. So until she was 18, she was every summer after summer a camper. After that, and she's Christian, of course. After that, she came to me and said and asked, Duarte, is there any possibility for me to be part of the staff? And so we spent some time together and in training um, in several occasions. And then I said to her, of course, and you will be the right person for the video workshops and all the communications process and so on. So since then, she is part of the staff. But the story of transformation is this: in the first year she was a staff, and she has been doing this every year, every summer. She came to me and said, "Duarte, I would like to offer to sponsor a camper each summer." And I said, "Well, that's wonderful. I mean, uh, that's good for the finances, of course, and it's also important to have you involved in such a way, investing in someone's lives." And she said to me, "And I want to do this because for quite some time when I was a camper, you all invested in me. And so now I want to invest in someone that might enjoy, might grow as much as I did in the Lord, and and all because of the English camps." So that's the strategy. All of the staff, it's not mandatory, of course, but they all have to go through the process, so to speak, of being campers in the English camp. And yeah, and it happened this way with the English camps because it happened with me. The influence some people had on me, um, it was so strong that I believe that's the right way to do it and continue to do it in the future.
Certainly having that personal experience then leads you to understand how impactful serving others can be, that overflow from your own experience. That's really interesting. I was curious, was camp in the summer just kind of normal for kids in Portugal at the time, or was this camp experience that you had kind of an unusual, unique one that like that was kind of the camp that people went to?
Well, camps in Portugal are a very normal thing during summer,
Mhm.
even those non-Christian camps.
Yeah.
There are there are several organizations, secular organizations, that that's the only thing they do, and they prepare all the fancy camps you might think about, all the techniques, so to speak, camps, but they're very expensive. They offer those camps for the big companies in Portugal, and they make a lot of money. But that's their goal, of course. We operate completely different. We have several evangelical Christian camps in Portugal, and they basically do all the same. I mean, I'm thinking about Word of Life Ministries. I'm thinking about the Baptist camp, Assembly of God camps, and then some other camps related with or connected with uh, local churches or a group of churches. But in that way, the English camp is different because we do all in with the English language. Of course, we have translation sometimes, but it's completely different because we do it in English. We have a staff from, or part of the staff from the United States or England. We do have some people from England. That's what makes us a bit different. We have a very significant group that is interested in participating in the English camps, and the feedback I receive, it's always great, and they always want to come back.
I love hearing about all these different ways to do ministry, all these ways you feel called and engaged in ministry for the people in Portugal, the people in your city, in your town. As you are working with Teach Beyond, I know you're also a local church pastor. So I'm curious how you see these two roles connecting, the ministry of the English camps and being a pastor in a church, how those two overlap and interact with each other.
Well, actually, I could talk about my church, the church where I am pastor, and in a practical way, saying that not directly connected with the English camps, but with the marriage seminars. We have probably 80% of the members of the church that already participated in the marriage seminars. And most of them now have embraced a role of leadership in the church because of the influence we have or we had in them through the marriage seminars. Um, and I see that connection, that benefit that not only the organization has with the people, with the members of a local church willing to participate as staff, has a team working volunteers in the marriage seminars. And just for you to have an idea, uh, marriage seminars now normally we have uh, 20 invited couples, so 40 people, and working for those during the weekend we have 86 people, and most of those 86 first they already did the marriage seminar because you only do it once, okay, as a couple. But then you can apply to be part of the staff, volunteer, of course. And I've seen a lot of stories of transformation related with marriage seminars. We had this couple that attended, and they were non-Christians. And by the end of the seminar, they made a decision for Christ, and both um, went to a local church invited by the couple that had invited them to participate in the seminar. And a year after, they were baptized. And after they were baptized, after a process of growing, spiritually speaking, now that couple both are deacons in the local church that they're attending. And of course, they're the best advertisers of Teach Beyond activities in that local church. And so, as a pastor, particularly speaking about my church, I must say that we have a benefit that goes both ways. Uh, Teach Beyond benefits to have so many people that are willing to be volunteers, helping us with the activities, not only the seminars, but also for the English camps and other activities. And at the same time, on the other way, um, we are helping the local church in areas, and I'm talking about family, education, where a lot of churches they don't have not even a strategy, uh, and so we cannot talk about a program towards the family, towards education, and so on that way, Teach Beyond is helping the local churches.
Mm, mm. Yeah, it's kind of a two-way ministry that working very closely with the church, that
Exactly.
Teach Beyond and the church together can be part of what God's doing in families for of all different ages, and these couples as they're experiencing transformation. Duarte, you mentioned earlier that you have been with Teach Beyond since before it was called Teach Beyond. And so you've seen this transformation over time of the organization and in yourself as well. So as you're part of this vision in Teach Beyond of reaching the nations through education, would love to hear what excites you about that and for this next season.
Well, of course, my perspective is always very personal, and I try to fit that perspective within the vision and the mission the organization have. Concerning Teach Beyond Portugal, of course, um, it was hard for me for the past years to know exactly what to do or how to serve in order to align um, the way we do things with the way Teach Beyond do things internationally. Whenever I was attending a conference, a national directors conference, or a more global conference, I was listening about stories. That's a continent that has been seen so so much increasing about education and schools and so on. And I was thinking to myself, when will we have that kind of thing in Portugal? But in Portugal, the question of education, using education as a way uh, for transformation, it's very hard because the education in Portugal is very secular, very controlled by the state. And even now, when we are planning and starting to uh, to plan and to prepare the beginning of an international Christian school in Porto area, my mind flies directly to all the bureaucracy, all the problems, all the laws that the government and the state uh, not only created but will create just to avoid um, another private school to happen. And that's sometimes what we have to face in Portugal. In Portugal, we have a philosophy of education very similar to what we have in France. In France, the government wants to control the curriculum, wants to control the teachers, want to control everything in order to avoid private schools and sometimes especially Christian schools. But on the same level, so to speak, in Portugal, the best schools are those who belong to the Catholic Church. The top 10 schools in Portugal are all um, belonging to the Catholic Church. It's very expensive, but it's a very good quality education. And I was always thinking, will that happen in Portugal somehow? And, i- sometimes it takes time, but that's how the Lord works. And so, in the near future, as I believe, we will have a project that will be more than a project. It will be a school, an international Christian school operating in Porto. We have three Christian schools in Portugal and all operating in Lisbon area. There's none in Porto. We have international schools in Porto. We have British Porto British School. We have the German school. We have two or three international schools, but none with a Christian view or vision. And so somehow I believe that after all these years, it's how Teach Beyond Portugal will um, be more effectively, so to speak, um, uh, aligned with the mission and especially with the vision for the future. And also on the personal level, um, I have been traveling to Africa for the Portuguese speaking countries, and God willing, I will go there again this summer to Mozambique. I'm going to train the leadership of several local churches in the interior of Mozambique. Literally, I'll go to the bush. I hope to see some lions and elephants and so on. And I will spend 2 weeks there teaching, but basically theology.
This may be continuing or repeating even some of what you were just saying, Duarte, but this idea of reaching the nations through education may feel so common sense after spending so many years working with camps and seeing life transformation in those informal education environments. But there's also a new opportunity to see the impact of education as missions in this season. So I'm curious for you, like, what would you say to someone who is considering, like, how is education missions, and how do we see this as a tool in seeing life change?
Mhm.
How would you articulate that?
Well, actually, that it's an interesting question because When the organization changed from Janz Team to Teach Beyond, and the focus was on using education to reach more people, there was a battle during some councils, and when when the leadership of the organization wanted to go forward, there was always a group of people from certain countries willing to stop the process because they didn't want to give up on evangelization. They didn't want to give up evangelistic crusades, music, and so on and so on and so on. And they didn't realize um, the possibility, the opportunity that education um, gives someone willing to use it for the glory of God, the opportunity we have through education to share the gospel. Of course, not preaching the gospel as we used to hear in Billy Graham's evangelistic crusades, or even inside the church. But education gives you an opportunity, an open door to reach those. That's what I would say to those who are somehow considering the possibility of joining um, Teach Beyond or any other organization that uses education. I would say that education, that is the open door, the biggest opportunity, not only to create good or helping create good citizens out of those children, students, but also an opportunity to share the gospel, share the love of Jesus. Um, I know it's very hard for my generation to see a teacher doing a missionary work, and I know that for my generation is very hard to see a teacher in the classroom has a missionary or an element that God is able to use to do and to build His kingdom. But I haven't seen lately any other role so important to share the gospel through education, and yeah, that's what Teach Beyond does through the learning process, through the teaching process, be able to share the love of God that is in Jesus Christ.
Well, Duart, as we're coming to the end of our conversation, we know this is still the middle of the story, but looking back on your life, what would you say is something that you would tell your past self, or how would you articulate kind of the transformation over time?
Well, I would say that I've been able as not only a pastor but as national director to somehow reach in my personal life um, several goals that I, I had when I was young. Um, on the other hand, I must say that I will be 60 in 2 days. Yeah,
Happy birthday.
thank you in advance.
April
Uh,
birthdays are the best.
and I'm reaching that age when I realize that some of my dreams, the dreams I had, not only related with my own life, but with my ministry, will no longer be possible to achieve. And I have to deal with that. I mean, I don't want that to become a crisis in my life. On the other hand, what I uh, learned from the past, uh, which I could share, is um, I will pass the torch, so to speak, for the young generation that is working with me. That yes, of course, there are dreams that we dream when we are young, and we're not able to, we won't be able to reach anyhow. But those the Lord allows us to achieve, um, we should take the maximum of them and offer those dreams or what they are involved with to the younger generation, those we are influencing. Um, of course, if I could back in time, I would do several things differently, and I would do some other things I didn't do. But I don't regret, and I almost had a football career.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was
We
a
could have
very.
had a whole nother podcast about that, Duarte.
I played with some very well-known football players from the past. I could have had a military career because I was an officer in the
Mm,
army for
mm,
mandatory service, and I could, you know, I wouldn't get to general or something, but I someone said that I would give a very good actor. Maybe I could go to Hollywood or whatever. I don't know. When I look at that, at almost the things I almost achieved, I say they're not very important compared to what the Lord has been doing in my life and through me, not only in the church, but basically with Teach Beyond after these 22 years of national director. I thank the Lord for all the opportunities and looking to the future, a lot more opportunities He will open, He will give me, and for the staff, for the team in Portugal. I thank Him for that, and
mm,
we will try to take advantage of that.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, there are certainly many opportunities we don't get to have in life. Like there are different directions we could have gone, different, paths we could have taken. But I really like your point that the one that we're on, we want to be faithful in that and with the opportunities that the Lord puts in front of us. And it's not to look back and say, oh man, I wish I could have, but to say, wow, in what the Lord has provided and how he's directed, I've seen him to be faithful and I just want to keep walking in faithfulness. And I hear that in your story, Duarte, and in seeing the fruit of the ministry in Portugal over these 20 plus years. And we pray that for the next season ahead for how the Lord will continue to grow and expand the work in Portugal there and around the world. So thanks so much for joining us today, for sharing from your story. I'm sure there's so much more we could have gotten into. There's always more to the story, but we trust that the Lord will continue to lead and guide.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Before we let you go, Duarte, we actually have one extra question we ask all of our guests, and so this is an important one. And that's every week on the show we ask, what's one thing that's changing your life? So this can be something really big or something small, but just that's making a difference in your life right now. So I'll go first, and then Heather, and then you get to go last. So you got a little bit of time to think about it. And so what's changing my life this past week, this past month, has been I always try and read the books my kids are reading. And so I was reading one of the books and I just opened it up and I realized I was listening to an audiobook actually, that it was an 8 hour long audiobook. And it was like, these books are getting too big. Normally it's just like a
Yes.
quick read. And it's like, oh no, these are
Yes.
going to take up a lot of my life if I have to keep up
Totally.
with my kids. So that's what's changing
It's
my life
so
this week.
true. It's easy to kind of pre-read a picture book
Yes.
or, like kind of know what's coming in that. But when you're getting into chapter books, books with more words, then it starts to be difficult to pre-read all the books. I had that experience when I was teaching upper elementary and middle school.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're at the point where I am not going to know every book on the shelf. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's a big deal.
That's funny.
Okay, mine is very small this week, Duarte. So don't feel like you are taking it too deep if yours is actually like a legitimate thing. Okay. But for me, I was recently in a hotel and they provided slippers, just like very simple slip-on slippers in there. And I was did not pack my slippers because I don't want to like take up some space in my suitcase for that. And so I was just so happy to find that this hotel had slippers, and I wore them like just all the time when I was in the hotel room, and then slipped onto, in my shoes when I went out. And it was a great experience. So I definitely recommend, if a hotel has slippers, use the slippers. What about for you, Dort?
Well, Keen
You don't
was
even know how to follow that. I know.
well, Keen was talking about books, and as you can see behind me, and I could go around the my office, and it's full of books, and probably
Mm,
I have the double of these packed in boxes
wow.
in the local
Yeah.
church. But anyway, I'm crazy about books. But lately, I've been probably um, because of the influence Matt Coe from United Kingdom, and because is a passionate person talking about leadership, um, and basically, yeah, there was some influence. Lately, I've been reading a lot of books concerning leadership, some in English, some in Portuguese, and I'm reading a book about Caesar. Um, it's not a Christian book, but very, very interesting concerning the leadership skills and strategies he used. And something really important that crossed my mind when I was reading one of the chapters is um, Caesar didn't think for a minute about succession. And that's why when he was killed, after that, there was a mess in the Roman Empire. We cannot say that it was already an empire, but and that really challenged me. That and because I'm about to be 60 years old, I had to think about succession. And that's something that even in Teach Beyond lately, we have been talking about that. So that's something that I'm really concerned is starting to prepare my succession and trying to find someone I can train, I can prepare in order to take over my role. Um, but sometimes it's just like my will to run every day, to jog, and every morning I say, okay, this is the morning when I'm going to start to run 1, 2, 3 kilometers, and then I'll open my window and I say, oh, it's raining. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll leave
Yeah.
it for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
and
suddenly
tomorrow,
a few years go by, right?
yeah, exactly. But that's something I have to seriously start to think about and to prepare,
Mm,
and not to postpone as frequent as I do with the running.
mm. Well, very different things changing each of our lives, and it's great to have those perspectives that you're sharing, Dort, as we think about leadership, and good to be diving deep into that. Thanks so much for joining us for this conversation, and we're so grateful for your leadership and Teach Beyond Portugal.
I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
And happy birthday.
Thank you.
I really enjoy talking to Art. It is great to hear his heart for ministry and his willingness to serve
Mm.
in just all sorts of different contexts.
And in all different seasons, right? Like
Mhm.
the ministry in Portugal has grown and developed over time, and it's amazing to see it continue to flourish.
Yeah. Duarte, Heather, and I serve with Teach Beyond, a mission organization reaching the nations through education.
Want to learn more and get involved? Visit teachbeyond.org or follow us on social media.
To help more people find the podcast and hear about Teach Beyond, we'd love it if you would leave a rating or review and share the show with a friend. Be sure you're subscribed or following the show on the platform where you listen so you never miss an episode.
And as always, you can reach us at podcast@teachbeyond.org. We'll see you next week.